Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Off the Charts tribute episode here, where this past Monday, January 20th, we lost, or the world of rock has lost, a great guitarist by the name of John Sykes to cancer. Now, I wasn't planning on I did a short, rest in peace, on Monday. But then I've been thinking all week about this guitarist, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do an episode. I know I'm late to the game. This has nothing to do with jumping on a bandwagon or getting views. This is just my tribute and how I discovered John Sykes. And trust me, I went backwards for this one here. So, yeah, this is my little tribute to John Sykes, who, if you look back to an episode that I've done, that's episode 146, my top 5 guitarists. I had to go check just to make sure, but yeah, he's in my, there's 2 honorable mentions, and I guess he's one of my favorites without actually me realizing he was one of my favorites, if that makes any sense. So I'll explain to you why I loved John's guitar playing or singing or bands or whatnot, and what he's brought to these bands. The first time I ever heard of John Sykes was Blue Murder. Okay, I listened to Metal Edge, or sorry, I read Metal Edge like every month, and yeah, the first time I saw him was, and I'll put the picture right here, and it was a splash page in Metal Edge announcing a new album and a new band called Blue Murder. I didn't know who John Sykes was. I didn't know who that blonde guy was. I didn't know who the bass player was either. But I recognized the drummer, and I'm like, oh, I know that. I know that guy. So I went based on that splash page, knowing nothing of the band here, and I went and bought the first Blue Murder album on cassette. Now, back when it first came out, I was a teenager, just pretty much starting to buy music, but other than Kiss, okay? And that's important to the story here. And I remember buying the Blue Murder album, and it was good, but where was your let's put the X in sex, like songs about sex, or Talk Dirty to Me by Poison, those types of Cherry Pie, those types of songs. I'm like, where is that? So to me, Blue Murder was a band ahead of its time, but for youth. To me, Blue Murder was an adult band. Again, I'm going to get into more details for that one here. Um, I I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I remember trading it off. Then fast forward to a few years, I went and bought that first Blue Murder album again on CD, and it slowly, but it wasn't until when the internet, your Napsters and all that, and it has nothing to do with Napster, but around that era where you can download songs like Emule or LimeWire, those, and I used to download videos, and then I had never seen a video for Valley of the Kings from Blue Murder. I was like, wow, this is good, and I rediscovered how good Blue Murder was. That's back in 2000. I'll say 2003, 4, about that time. And then Rock Candy went and reissued the CD, so I went and bought it again a third time, and now I have it on vinyl, which I'll show you later. So that was my first introduction to John Sykes. I had no idea of the backstory regarding this guy. So then I started getting into Whitesnake. I knew Whitesnake before getting into Blue Murder. I just did not know John Sykes was part of Whitesnake. And bear in mind, when it got popular for my age group, Whitesnake was the '87 album, which he recorded to a point, I guess. I'm not sure about that. And definitely wrote some songs. But it's not until, again, this whole Emule LimeWire, I was downloading videos, and I came across Slow and Easy by Whitesnake, which is off the Slide It In album. And I saw the video, I was like, wow, this is good. So I really, really love that song, Slow and Easy. So I went and bought the greatest hits of Whitesnake, which was on it. And it's more of a greatest hits based on Slide It In, '87, and Slip of the Tongue, and a few extra tracks, bonus tracks. So that was my first introduction to knowing about John Sykes. And then I see this part I don't remember which came first, but my friends Eric and Pascal were huge into Thin Lizzy, and I wasn't at the time. And they were buying Thin Lizzy albums, and they told me about this album, Thunder and Lightning. And they're like, oh my God, this is borderline metal. And that's when I found out that John Sykes was also part of Thin Lizzy. And internet was in its infancy back when I was finding all of this out, by the way, okay? Then last piece was, and I started to like John Sykes as a guitarist, and I was getting into Blue Murder a lot, like that. By that time, I was getting to Blue Murder a lot, and I was older. I'm gonna say wiser, but you know what I mean. There, like I'm more of an adult as opposed to a teen that just wanted songs about sex and dicks and tits and all that. And I remember also with my friend Pascal, we went to, I forget which store, maybe Record Runner, I forget what it was, because they were reissuing some CDs of Tigers of Pantang, and I had gone onto the internet, and again, it was an infancy. These web pages were shit, okay? And I remember clicking on one song called "Take It," and I was like, "Oh my God, this is such a good song." So I went and got Spellbound, and he went and got Wildcat, I believe. Anyway, I've got a lot more, and I'll show you the albums that I do have there. Well, I have most of his studio albums. Okay, that's what's important here. His style of music or playing for John Sykes was what Chris Oliva was to metal. John Sykes was to hard rock. There was some really cool, and it wasn't his soloing that I loved about John. It was his riffs. I'm proud to say also I did see him live. Technically, he had made and I think this was maybe the Bananas tour for Deep Purple, where Thin Lizzy was opening, and this was in Montreal. I think we arrived a little bit late during Thin Lizzy, but yeah, got to see him live, and that would be it though. But now we're gonna go just in order of his discography. So I do have Tigers of Pantang, Spellbound on vinyl, and this is where this is why I decided to make an episode about John Sykes, is that every album that he's participated in a band ends up being my favorite of that band. So Spellbound is my favorite Tigers of Pantang album. Here's a young John Sykes right here. Take It is so good. Hellbound, so good. Gangland, so good. It's, I don't know, his riffs are great in this one here, but also I have Crazy Nights, which isn't as good. I find it to be a little bit more simpler, but here's our buddy John Sykes once again. Crazy Nights is a good song. Do It Good is a little too simple. Never Satisfied, I like it there. Running Out of Time. Good album, just not as good as Spellbound. And also, he's appearing on 2 songs off of The Cage, which is, do I still have his, I bet you I shut it off. Well, whatever. I think it was, I know it's song 10, and was it 4? So making, anyway, he's on 2 songs, but he probably was on his way to his next project. And the sound of, it was kind of going, this is good, but what comes after kind of goes a little bit downhill, if you ask me there. But yeah, Spellbound by Tigers of Pantang is my favorite Tigers of Pantang album. Then we go on, he goes on to go to Thin Lizzy. And guess what? This also is my favorite Thin Lizzy album. Thunder and Lightning, what a song. Even though it doesn't sound tight, man, that's such a great song. I freaking love it. And I knew of, because it was covered a few times, Cold Sweat. That also is a riff and a half. That song, I remember my brother-in-law getting a Megadeth album where there was a Thin Lizzy cover of Cold Sweat on it. He's like, man, who the hell sings that? That is a great song. I'm like, that's Thin Lizzy. And of course, that's John Sykes as to what he brought to Thin Lizzy. This lineup was short-lived because this would be Thin Lizzy's final album, and 2 years later, Phil Lynott would pass away. But yeah, again, talk about transforming Tigers to a point, really transforming Thin Lizzy into a powerhouse. The riffs are just there, and of course, then would be step one, which would be Whitesnake Slide It In, and the song Slide It In is good, but to me, the best is Slow and Easy. Love Ain't No Stranger is a good one too. But Slow and Easy, just the stop and goes in that song is just probably is my favorite or second favorite Whitesnake song, which both tend to be John Sykes written songs there. But yeah, a good album, but, and I was not too long ago, so I knew the big Whitesnake fight between Coverdale and Sykes at the time. I'll admit I wasn't into what happened, or again, I didn't know who John Sykes in Whitesnake was when I found out about Blue Murder. But this album here, man, was it ever huge. And I know he's doesn't really say here. I did look up on Wikipedia and it did show, see right here, there's no credits to oh, here we go, yeah. So David Coverdale vocals, yeah, John Sykes guitar and vocals. So he did a lot. Now, what he wrote, not 100% accurate there, but man, this was huge. And I know when in Blue Murder, he always played live Still of the Night. I know my friend, when he texted me, he says he loves Bad Boys. Where's, yeah, that's the second one here. He loves the riffing on that here. To me, would be Still of the Night. So it's between my favorite two Whitesnake songs is between Still of the Night and Slow and Easy. To me, that's like almost two borderline epic songs, but sound different from each other, I guess there. But yeah, Whitesnake 87, and this is when, it depends who you ask, whether it's Coverdale or Sykes. He got fired from Whitesnake, and then this became one of the best-selling albums of hair metal genre there. But again, this ends up being my favorite Whitesnake album. I believe a lot of people also. It just, and I know that there's a version. Apparently, there's a version of this mix and a version of the John Sykes mix. Is it a 30th anniversary special? I didn't get it there. I try to get just one album per band there, except certain other bands there. But yeah, this also ends up being my favorite Whitesnake album. And then, well, he goes on to form Blue Murder. Again, did not know about the relationship of Whitesnake. But what's funny is at the time when I was telling people about, and see, this is like I said, that's the splash page that was in Metal Edge again. And again, this is who I knew. I didn't know who this guy was. I just knew him. But yeah, there was one song. Again, I did not know about the relationship between Whitesnake and Blue Murder. I was like, oh, it's a pretty good album there. Black Hearted Woman really sounds like Whitesnake, though. So I was like, okay. And then a little bit later releases Nothing But Trouble. Now, to me, John Sykes's best moments uh, would be these two albums right here. I think that these two pretty much are equal, and I'll explain myself. Off of this album, there's four songs that I love, and off of this album, there's four songs that I also love. The rest are pretty much all equal, good to decent, you know. But the ones I love about from this one here is Riot, uh, Valley of the Kings, probably my favorite. Jelly Roll, which I didn't like at the time, but I do love now. And Blue Murder, the song, okay? And off of this one here, I really love We All Fall Down, Cry for Love, Shouldn't Have Let You Go is so good, and I Need an Angel, which to me, that should have been the song that ends the album. So those four songs, We All Fall Down, Cry for Love, Shouldn't Have Let You Go, and I Need an Angel, friggin' love. Like those, like, enough, these two songs right here. And great singer too. He and of late, and the reason is I don't really usually do tributes, but this past couple of days, that's all I've been listening to is now John Sykes stuff, and I'm not bored. I'm loving it again even more. It's kind of like having the effect of Rush with when Neil Peart passed away there. But I even went and saw some footage live on YouTube, which I've never seen, like Billy live, and I never realized how great the bass playing. He's one of my favorite bass players. But again, there's something that happens in your life or my life or I guess his life now that he's passed away. Something happens in your mind about that person's music and it changes. And I'm like, I'm hearing stuff differently. And especially Billy, I was like, whoa, that is a freaking good song. Like maybe what I didn't really like about the first Blue Murder was a little bit too overproduced at times there. But I find it has aged very well as an album. So yeah, I'm loving this year. But yeah, it's I just wanted to tell you guys about how I felt about John Sykes. Whether he's my favorite guitarist or not favorite guitarist, I really love his rhythm, like his riffs playing. Solos are good, but I'm not a solo guy, okay? It has nothing to do with solos being good or bad there. I just prefer his riffs. Great voice too back in Blue Murder, and also when I saw him front Thin Lizzy live in Montreal. But yeah, like I said, all week I've just been like I don't know if I guess I never realized maybe as that John Sykes maybe was secretly one of my better guitar players. Like I said, I did give him honorable mentions, but his writing and his riffing are top notch, and his guitar tone. He's got a great guitar tone. Listen to that Whitesnake album and Blue Murder and all of the friggin' Tigers and Thin Lizzy. Like there's some great guitar playing in there and great riffing there. So that is my little tribute to John Sykes. Rest in peace. Um, I'm glad I saw him live, and I'm glad I discovered him when I did. But like I said, it was all backwards. Like I didn't know who his relationship with Whitesnake was, even though I knew of that '87 Whitesnake. Heard about Thin Lizzy. I might have just known um, Boys Were Back in Town like everybody else there. Did not know Blue Murder. That was the spark. And Tigers of Pantang, I probably just knew the name when you heard new wave of British heavy metal all the time. They were always there. I just didn't know their music, but that it wasn't until early 2000s I found out about the Tigers of Pantang. So, but yeah, it just ends up that every band that John Sykes has been part of has they've been my favorite albums of said band. So that should say something. And that's four, like, when you look at it, they're Blue Murder, Thin Lizzy, Tigers of Pantang, and Whitesnake. I mean, sure, not all of them were like heavy hitters, but like definitely one huge heavy hit. Well, depends on which country you're from there. I'll say all heavy hitters, okay? It depends on where that album was popular or not there. But yeah, rest in peace, John. Thank you for the music that was, and of course now I guess we know maybe why he's been silent all these past few years, because maybe he was battling it for many years, his cancer. I don't know. We don't know. Okay, and you saw a lot of jokes online about where the hell is this guy here. So anyway, that's my little episode and tribute for John Sykes. Hope you guys enjoyed. Rest in peace, John, and thank you for the music. Have yourselves a great whatever. We'll see you this coming Monday. Take care. Bye bye.